Let's see. Well, I grew up in a Christian background, but it was very uninspiring, just a little church. There was no Bible that I recall. But even when I was a child, I remember sitting there. This is just the most odd memory, but now that I'm here, it makes more sense. I said to myself, I want to be like Jesus. And so strangely, like this voice in my head said, you can't do that, you're a girl. So isn't that weird? So that was my beginning, but I never quite gave up.
So I grew up in a Jewish background. My family was observant, but not very religious. I grew up in South Africa, and being Jewish, we were somewhat insulated from the rest of the culture. And so our family life revolved around the synagogue, and all our social friends and community was around the synagogue. It wasn't very spiritual, but it was mostly a cultural Jewish background. I remember reading the Bible as a young boy, and when I would get to the New Testament, I would close the book because, that was the Jesus part. And I remember my sister saying when she got to that part, she tore up the New Testament. So we had a really strong kind of visceral feeling about not really going into the New Testament because that wasn't the Jewish way.
We did a number of different things, some of them Eastern-based, Hindu-based, some stuff you probably never heard of, but we got out of all of those things after a while. We did them all together. We learned some good stuff from probably each one of those paths that we were on. A year and a half ago, I was looking at getting hip replacements. And I'm like, I'm going to go crazy. I don't want to waste this time sitting around because that's what I figured I would be doing. So I contacted my brother who I said, I do not want you proselytizing to me. So I was like this, and I said, but I'm thinking of reading the Bible. And so he was very respectful. So I started reading the Bible because I didn't want to waste that time. I figured I'd be sitting around a lot and listening to Vernon McGee through the Bible. And it's like, oh my gosh, Genesis is interesting. I couldn't even believe it. So then he started listening. So now we're on our own doing this spiritual thing.
I had come to a dry spell in my life. Like I needed something. I needed God in my life. I didn't realize exactly what that meant. And then one day, after we had been sort of like floundering for a while.
So I said, I need a spiritual community. And he's standing in the kitchen, and I go Google Bible church. And I said, see, it almost makes my hair stand on end again. I said, there's a church 5 minutes from here, and there's a service in 25 minutes. I figured I was going by myself. So here's this Jewish guy, and he says, I'm going. I'm like, what? So we got dressed really quickly and we got over here, and it was Romans 2. I looked it up this morning, verse 9. So we're sitting in there, and Chris is reading the part about tribulations and anguish to the Jews first and then to the Gentiles. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, he's going to bolt.
This Jewish guy's going to get up and go.
And then fortunately, soon thereafter, he talks about the blessings or something to the Jews first and then to the Gentiles. But we've been here every week since.
Yeah, the moment I walked into the church, I had this incredible feeling of being at home. And the music, and then when Chris was talking, I started to cry. And started to weep of just feeling like I found something that was quite remarkable that I'd been basically looking for all my life. And since we've been coming regularly, anytime we're in town, we come to church. And the first few times, both of us would just break down and weep. It was an incredible feeling of just gratitude for finding this church.
Yeah.
Gratitude for finding a preacher like Chris, and the community that we have found, and so it's just been a wonderful journey. It's only been a year, but it's been very intense for us, and it's been very, very rewarding.
A friend has come a few times, and she was here yesterday, and I said, I still feel like crying every time I come. And at the end of the service, she said, I feel like crying. You know, there's a lot, and it's like, I thought this was going to make everything easy. No, but it is making it better. It's not necessarily easy, but it's deepening.
Finding Jesus is one thing, and we have found Jesus through this church. And I think the challenge and just the journey is to become a disciple of Jesus. That's where our enthusiasm is. Like I do want to be like Jesus, and I want to follow Jesus. And this church, I think, emphasizes discipleship. And I really, really appreciate that, because finding is one thing, but really being part of the journey and following Jesus is the task at hand, you know. So